this is maybe not as meaningful to her as it is to me, but it is.
It is.
Okay. So
April, even April will agree by the end of the podcast. What's important to you is important to all of us.
I know, exactly.
So, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So I met April at an event that my friend Sherry and I went to, a Hay House event. And I think it was in 2017, like January or something. I don't remember exactly, but 16, maybe it was 16. Anyway, doesn't matter. Okay. It was in Seattle.
So it was a while ago.
Yes, it was a while ago. And Sherry left me on a day and I was by myself and it was lunchtime and there was this cool girl standing over talking to these other ladies. And so I don't know, I think I just made my way into the cool club, trying to, anyway, I remember she was gorgeous, had tattoos, and she said she was a tattoo artist and gave me a card. And at that point in time, I had no tattoos. But I thought, it's so beautiful, the art that she does. And I never keep anybody's card. Just if you gave me your card, I tossed it out. Okay. Hers, I kept in my bedroom on the dresser for how many years?
No way.
Yes. Okay. 16, 17, 8. When did we do it? 19.
Now the dresser part, you never told me.
Yeah. Like in my house, in the dresser, like for 3 years, like that collects dust and shit. Okay. On the dresser. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had it there. And so when I got this urge, and I'm going to say it's a divine urge, and she's going to tell us all about her divine process. I got this urge that I needed to, now it's post-divorce, or I hadn't really officially been divorced, but
you started the process.
Yes. And I felt the urge to get a tattoo and I knew what I wanted. It just spoke to me. And I didn't know why I wanted it so much, but I was like, that lady, I didn't remember it was April. I'm not good with names. Okay. But I'm like, oh, I have her card. And so out came the card and Jeanna and I looked at it and then I tried to book, and we'll talk about that later, ladies and gentlemen. It is very hard to book even back then,
but worth the wait.
Yeah. So Jeanna and I go there and, and I got my tattoo there, and Jeanna, what, go ahead, take it away, girl.
Well, so she drags me along because I've had tattoos, and she's like, you need to come with me. And I will say, of all of my friends and people I know well and not so well, Holli was probably the last person I would have ever expected to have wanted a tattoo ever. And you were convicted about this. And to the point where I think she did some special extras, something to get bumped in the line or something.
I did.
Yeah. Did extra
express.
Pay. Yes. So I think she got all that because she was so committed to doing it. And so I was, of course,
I was like, she can only do it. I was like, this woman is the only person that should do it.
I go, okay, well, the fact that,
none of it makes any sense. Anybody that knows me knows it makes
so
no
we
sense.
go to this shop on a Saturday morning, maybe. And it was the most stunning tattoo shop I've ever been in. And you walk in and the energy and
there's crystals.
Yes, there's crystals.
There's a chandelier.
And there's this energy and it is not, listen, take all the inked and all that crappy stuff you've thought about from tattoo shows and tattoo experiences in your past. Think about a metaphysical space that has the most amazing energy and outdrifts. I don't even think your feet touch the ground. Outdrifts April to pick you up to go do
she's gorgeous.
The tattoo, and it was the most memorable experience I've had in a very long time.
And we're going to talk about that. And she's gorgeous and she's bossy.
Yes,
because as you remember,
very opinionated.
Very opinionated.
Oh,
yes. Okay, she's an artist.
I like when somebody tells you what to do.
Gorgeous. Intuitive artist. Okay. All that rolled up into one little package. And so she was like, yeah, no, that's too small. Okay. And I'm like, ooh. Okay. Anyway, she was bossy and we got the right thing. Okay. It was absolutely the right thing. So
incredible.
Anyway, so we are so excited since that time where she made such an impact to us. We have wanted to have her on the podcast and we wanted her to talk about her evolution. So she's an intuitive, she's a medium, she's a healer. You can absolutely feel that in the presence of her shop. I don't know what else to call it. You can shop there, you can pray there. I think you can get yourself healed there and you can get a tattoo all in one. So welcome April Cornell to LOA podcast.
Welcome, April.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for so many nice things that you said. That's really touching. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, we were talking about, guests for our podcast and, highlighting people who we've met along the way that showcase living an authentic law of attraction kind of lifestyle. People who are committed to what they're passionate about and committed to doing it in a way that makes their unique mark on the world. And we were talking about the experience at your tattoo shop and how incredible, I wouldn't even call it a tattoo shop, your space,
the altar.
The altar. And I think it was one of those things that never left my mind. And it was one of those things that as we continued on this conversation and journey with the podcast, you stood out more and more over time as one of those people that, you know, would be great to have our audience hear from you, your history, your story, and a bit about kind of where you are in your life today and where you see it going. So maybe if you could just start, and I know the conversation we'll talk about kind of where you're at today and where we're going, but if you could maybe give us a little bit of your history, April, a little bit about you,
Sure.
Who you are, what you're all about, how you found this blend, and how you've landed at the spot you're at currently in life.
Yeah, it's a long story, but to make it short, I've always been intuitive and had mediumistic abilities, but it took me a long time to figure out exactly what was going on with myself.
Yep.
And that I wasn't crazy, that I actually knew things and knew what was going to happen before things were going to happen, or spirits would come to me to communicate messages to other people. But I always felt out of my control and like I didn't have control over it. And I think a lot of people feel that way with their gifts, which we all have. We all have intuitive abilities. It's some of us choose to hone those skills further. And we all have the capability of doing that, which I think is important to say. And a part of my mission in helping other people is to really get in touch with their own intuition. So they stop getting hit over the head like I was getting hit over the head, to really wake up to myself. And that's essentially what was happening. I was a tattooer, and still am a tattooer, but I was a tattooer in the more traditional sense, working at my shop, Hidden Hand Tattoo, that I opened with my husband, who still works there and runs and operates without me. It's on his own now. And I noticed in my sessions when I was working with people that my sessions looked a lot different than my colleagues, and that I was getting information about people that I couldn't have known. And that really started to drive my artwork and bringing that into my artwork, and then also into my sessions with my clients. And it wasn't, I guess many years went by, and as I was going down the spiritual path, I did have an awakening. I was on the spiritual path, but I did have an awakening that happened after a car accident, and which led me to start meditating. Were you gonna ask me a question?
No, that sounds good. Okay.
Yeah, and so it was around. I can't remember. It was way before the Hay House event that this was occurring when we met.
Right.
And I started getting downloads that I needed to open a space. And it was really important that I open the space, not only for myself to expand in my own abilities and to have a space to do that I felt safe in, but also for my clients. And so that they could expand in the healing process of tattooing, which is really a surrendering process. And a lot comes up while, through the entire tattoo process, I find with my clients, from the moment they book the tattoo until they're actually getting the tattoo. And so that really began my motivator for opening altar. And I really felt as if it was guided more than I was making it happen. I was really just following it. And from the moment that I had that download to opening the doors was about 8 months. So it happened very quickly.
Quick.
Yeah. And I find that when spirit, is really guiding things, and when you're in alignment and you're listening and you're trusting, things can move forward more quickly than we expect.
Yeah.
And what does that feel like? So being guided versus being in your head. I mean, if how can we tell our audience, like, what does it feel like to be guided? Can you help with that?
Well, for me,
Yeah. What does that look like or feel like? What? Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, it's still a process that I go through of feeling like I'm banging my head against the wall, and then, okay, alignment,
Right.
and like shortening the gap in between those moments of, insanity, really. And trying to make it perfect, and do the right thing all the time, and getting more into flow.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really listening. I had the vision of altar before I saw it. Like I visually saw what it looked like, but it didn't seem like what I was seeing would exist in Seattle. And I had almost signed a lease with another place that fell through for all the right reasons, but I was devastated when it fell through, even though I was the person who didn't move forward, because I had discovered that this man that I thought had the perfect location for me was actually a slumlord. And there was evidence all online about it. And I was guided, in that direction to uncover really what was going on in this really deceitful process that I'd gotten into in negotiations with him. And so it was a huge blessing, but I was also devastated.
Right. It felt like a setback at that time, didn't it?
It was huge. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I had already hired my replacement. I was like on my way out the door. And so, I was devastated. And then I saw, I knew that I had to keep looking. I almost, I almost went with a completely different space after that, feeling defeated and just like, well, this is it. But it was such a smaller version, and it wasn't my vision, and I had to get real with myself that this isn't it. And it doesn't mean it's not happening, but I can't shrink myself into this small space with what I want to do, literally, as well as spiritually.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so I knew I saw this ad for altar where I'm located, and it was almost $1,000 more than I could afford, but it looked exactly like what I had been seeing. And I knew that I had to keep the momentum going and to put that energy in the right direction instead of crying on my pillow and sulking around the shop that, it didn't work out. Yep. I knew I had to keep that momentum in the game, so to speak. And even my husband discouraged me. He's like, it's way too expensive. You can't afford it. Don't even look at it because you're going to want it. And
so true.
And I got here and I looked around, and the landlords offered it to me right away. And I wanted to take it, but I told them it's way too expensive. It's not only is the rent too expensive, I don't even know what the triple net is, and I can't afford it.
Right.
And he asked me, well, what can you afford?
Oh my gosh.
I told him, and he said, you got a deal. And I've been here ever since. And
I love that. I have chills. That's amazing. Yeah. It's an amazing
story. An amazing story. I mean, to talk about, not getting defeated. And then I love husbands sometimes, or your friends say, oh no, don't do it. You did it anyway. And then you found out that they met you, he met you with that amount of money. And that's an incredible story.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the building looked exactly like what I had been seeing. I saw this brick building. It looked very European to me in my mind, with these built-in, like flower,
little pots. Yeah.
Little pots that they were built-in. So I was like, that doesn't exist in Seattle. Where am I going to find that? It doesn't look like anything like here. And then here it is.
Yep. Yeah. It is. And it stands by itself. It's kind of at the end of a block, and it's sort of, that building stands out by itself. It's definitely it catches your eye, that building for sure.
And what's so funny about that is so many people never knew this building existed, because for 30 years it existed as a business before me, and they had the reflecting sticky film you can
on the windows. Yes.
So you would just see yourself when you drove by, and so many people come in and are like, I didn't even know this building was here, because it really did feel invisible from that reflective mirror film.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is so funny. And then after the build out, because it looked so much different in here when I got it, And I do a lot of energy work here and protecting the space and the land. And it does feel like you kind of step into a portal and then you're kind of back out into the real world when you leave.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was like I said, it left an impression, and that was, how long ago did you get that tattoo? 3 years
19?
ago? 19? Yeah.
Yeah. January.
Yeah.
January.
Stayed with me for a long time.
Yeah.
So the question I had, so you had talked, and this is one of the things we've talked quite a bit about on the podcast, is around intuition and gifts. And I think many people doubt, question, don't listen to.
They think they're crazy.
They think they're crazy. They think they're just making it up in their mind. It's not coming from somewhere else. Can you talk about, you talked about, questioning that in the beginning, and kind of where were you at in your life at that time when you started to acknowledge that you had feelings or acknowledge things that maybe no one else did or could, and you started to realize that maybe you had something that was unique or different, and that, needed to be nurtured and acknowledged and worked with, versus, kind of dismissing it. Because I think so many people do, even if you don't want to call it a gift, there's an intuition, there's guidance, there's things coming to you from the universe that you don't maybe even acknowledge what it is. So I'm just kind of curious if you can talk us through that, and how you kind of reconciled with yourself what you had, and how you started to nurture that and listen to it maybe in a different way.
Yeah. Also a really great and big question. I feel like I had moments of that throughout my life. But again, I didn't know how to focus it, and it felt out of my control. I didn't feel like I could make it on demand. Or that it even existed like that. So one of the pivotal moments for me was when I was working at our first shop. I was experiencing some issues in some relationships that I knew what was going on, but I didn't want to believe what was happening. And it made me feel like I was crazy, that this couldn't possibly be happening, because that would be crazy. But I knew it was happening. And as I saw things unfolding, everything that I felt and everything that I saw in my visions was developing. And I knew that I had to go with my intuition, because otherwise it was at the expense of myself. I had become extremely depressed. I was suicidal. I felt completely out of control, and I felt like nobody was listening to me and what I saw happening. And it was really taking me down. And so I had, it just felt like I had no other option, but I had to trust and listen to what I knew was true. And instantly, once I started to do that, even though some people around me didn't agree or didn't understand where I was coming from, I knew within my heart and within my gut that I was right. And as things unfolded, of course, everything started to come to fruition that I thought. And that's when I really woke up, and I thought, I'm never going to allow this to happen to me again. For me to wind up in this situation again, like where we keep getting hit over the head. And then another thing happened not long after that, which is why I got in a car accident. And it wasn't a serious car accident in the fact where I was wound up in the hospital or anything, but I was out of a stop, and I got hit from someone behind going about 40 miles an hour. And it definitely damaged my car pretty good. And I was in a lot of pain. And at that point, I was doing everything to live an aligned life. So I thought a lot of this, at that time, I was really trying to perfect myself, my outer body. I was really focused so much on the external. And if I do the workouts, if I drink the juice, if I, don't do this and do this, then everything will come into alignment. And that car accident was really just like putting the brakes on everything that I thought I knew. But what ultimately happened was I was in physical therapy, and I was really frustrated that I wasn't feeling better, and that I wasn't able to get back to my workouts, which I'd been really serious about for a year at that point. And I had this, some people might call it an out of body experience, but I heard a voice. I didn't feel out of body. I felt very grounded. And I was with my physical therapist, and I heard a voice that was so loud. It wasn't male, it wasn't female. It was this booming voice that said meditation. And it was so loud that I asked my physical therapist if he could.
Did you hear it?
And he was like, no.
Wow.
And there was also this download that came with that word that was audible. I mean, it was very audible, as someone had just like turned up a speaker. And in that download, I got the message that I could heal myself, and that I needed to start meditating. I needed to start bringing light into my body, that I needed to really start looking within, and all of this external searching, which is what we're taught to do.
Yes.
Wasn't the answer, and that I really needed to meditate. I needed to sit down and really sit with myself and sit with what was coming up. And that was, and still is, you know, an unfolding journey that I think that we continue down forever.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful
Wow.
story. So for meditation, what does that mean to you? I know it's different for everybody. Do you do a certain type meditation, or is there a certain time? Are you disciplined? What does that look like for you?
Yes, I'm very disciplined with meditation. I meditate in the morning and I meditate at night. And sometimes I'll even meditate before I have to go do something, if I'm going to go meet friends, or just to honestly give myself more energy.
Yes.
I will feel like a boost of energy, and also not to take the work day or home life or anything else into whatever else I'm doing, and just being really centered and clear.
Yeah.
So my meditation has looked different over the years. I started out doing guided meditations. I really got into Joe Dispenza and started doing his workshops and all of his meditations, and they're wonderful. I went to the 10-day Vipassana silent meditation. I explored everything that I could. That was free, because I felt like it shouldn't be costing me money to learn how to meditate. There are programs out there that charge you, and that just didn't feel right to me for myself. So my meditation has changed. I think for other people, it's just important. I just tell everyone, it's just important to sit down, and to me, it's like answering the phone. So we put out our messages all the time to spirit, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, our prayers, our wants, our needs. And if that's us making a phone call to the universe, if we never pick up the phone, we're not going to get the message, right?
Such a great, and, you know, that's a brilliant analogy.
I love that.
I know, it's so true.
Pick up the phone. Okay.
Yeah. When are you on duty to answer? Right. You keep putting things out. That's a brilliant analogy.
April, tell us, like, you know, is there a certain good picking up the phone or bad? But do you judge picking up the phone when you actually do your meditation? Is there a bad meditation where you just sit down and go, gosh darn it, work was just shit and blah, blah, blah. I mean, is that a bad meditation, or can you know, because some people think they can't do it and it has to be good. So we're going to judge our meditation. So can you talk a little bit about how you feel about that in your practice?
I think it's important to demystify meditation, because so many people think it's this thing where their brain's going to turn off, or they're going to stop thinking and they're going to be in no mind automatically. And that's the essence of a good meditation. I think a good meditation is any meditation where you sit down and you are intentional and you're giving it a shot, you know, to do your best in that meditation. And that looks different every day, because we're different every day. Just like when we exercise, you know, if we exercise every day for a year, or 6 days a week for a year, and then we take a vacation and come back, it's going to be hard to get back in the gym. And meditation builds on itself, and it takes time. So the longer breaks we take from meditation, it can feel like starting over. But I try not to judge my meditations. It's interesting, when I was at Vipassana meditation, you know, there would be a meditation where you're meditating like 15 hours a day or something. And I would have this completely euphoric, amazing meditation, 1 hour, you know, come back the next hour and be in miserable pain, you know, and in the same day, just a few minutes apart, you know?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And it can feel like that, I think, in our day-to-day life as well, depending on what's going on. But it's really important, I think, to call our energy back to ourselves, to hand people back what's not ours, to really do, I mean, this is what I do, is, you know, getting into alignment, feeling what's happening in my body, bringing light into the body. I have a lot of rituals and exercises that I do just to clear out my body and to bring in light. And if I have questions, if I'm wanting to communicate with my ancestors, or if I'm trying to get clarity or guidance, I'll bring all of that to my meditation. And I think it's so important in helping us to find our own answers and what our authentic truth is, and not the surface or what's out here.
Oh, so brilliant. You know, we've talked quite a bit in past podcasts too about just energy, and as well as boundaries, and your comment about giving back to others what's theirs, or you said something to that effect just a minute ago.
And in meditation,
so can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I feel like as human beings, that's probably one of our greatest challenges, is to acknowledge what's ours, both energetically and what we should own, and what someone else's, and how you balance or manage that to protect yourself and your own energy.
And April, you got to give me what is it? Those yellow books to dummy 101 version.
Yeah.
What is that?
I think it is for dummies. It's that
yellow and
boundaries
black
for dummies.
Yeah, exactly. Boundaries for dummies. Okay, because no, I'm kidding about the dummy part, but I'm going to say that naturally. So I'm into astrology, right? And so like naturally,
you want the Cliff Notes.
Well, I'm Pisces, so I have no boundaries. I come into this world, I'm hella Pisces, okay, like a lot of planets, okay? And so I come in with no boundaries. It's so much easier to her. I'll have to ask her, did they invade my boundaries? Okay, she'd be like, yes.
But I'm a Gemini, so some of it I might be lying about, and some of it I'm lying about, apparently.
So we have this funny relationship where she's really good at it, I'm not. And so if you can help, maybe both avenues of how you just kind of go about seeing, what's mine, what's others, and what's your process of giving it back.
Yes.
That'd be great.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Well, I'm a work in progress, just like anybody else. And so I'm always checking in with my boundaries too. I'm a Pisces moon. So
me too.
I definitely feel like, no boundaries, and let me help, let me take care of you, let me do all the things. And I also have that perfectionism aspect as well, and wanting to make everything perfect. And so all of these things work against us.
Yes, they do. And for us.
Yes. And, energetic hygiene, boundaries are so important for our own health. And also so that we follow our path and stay in our own lane, so I think that's really important. So I practice something called the bubble. We're all empathic beings. And so I teach this energetic bubble to other people. It's not a block, but it's helpful for you not to absorb other people's energies. So that's one thing that's happening all the time, because we are empathic beings. I believe we are all telepathic beings. That's what we are evolving into. And so there's a lot going on energetically and in the unseen worlds that we don't always pick up on or understand unless you're really tuned into it. And so I don't want to bring anyone home with me, so to speak, any spirits or any mischievous things. As well as I don't want to take home my client's stuff, and I don't want them taking home my stuff. And so there is that line, because especially in sessions, there can be, it can feel kind of blurry in everything that you're sharing. And when you get into really deep conversations with people and people are opening up, I love having those conversations, and it's a safe space to do that. For me as well. I love communicating with my clients what's going on for me and vice versa. But we don't want to take that home with us. And in my healing sessions, I noticed so many people are carrying around what to me looks like energetic backpacks. It's like when we go on a trip and we're going to be there for 3 days, but we took like 2 suitcases and then you like go home and you're just home for a day to go somewhere else. And you only wore like 2 things and they're the same 2 things you wear at home every day, yet you still have all this shit with you. It's like, but you don't unpack those bags and you take them on the next trip, with all the shoes and all the things. And you don't need it. You need to put it back. And so one thing that my grandmother taught me in spirit, not living, it was actually not too long ago, with some of my own health issues that I have going on, is she was showing me her cancer, and this really shifted things for me. It was so profound. So I was looking at her cancer that had a form, and she was showing me this part of the cancer was the part where I was interfering in other people's business. Oh. I was inserting myself. I was trying to be controlling. I was trying to fix things. I was, and the intention was good, like it wasn't out of malice or anything, but it wasn't hers to deal with. It was other people's stuff. Wow. And then there was this other section she was showing me, and this was the part where I didn't focus on myself. I stopped doing things I loved. I didn't do my hobbies. I didn't make the decisions, that for the things I wanted. I made them for other people. I compromised what I wanted. And as we make these day-to-day decisions, it just all she's showing me is building up, into this cancerous tumor. And it was really all about, if I just handed over what was others, and if I just took also, what was mine and owned that this is what I love in my life. I want strawberry ice cream and I don't want to compromise chocolate every time or whatever it is. Something as small as that, or as big as, staying in a relationship or a job or some kind of toxic situation, that we have so much power. We're such powerful beings and we don't even realize it. But it is in these day-to-day moments, what we do, what we say, how we're feeling, it all impacts us. So are we taking on other people's stuff, that we can't really do anything with anyway? And they really need their stuff in order for them to process it. We can't lift that load. We can hold compassionate, loving space for someone, and we can be a witness and we can validate others. And that's such a healing, profound act that we all really are looking for. But it doesn't mean we need to take over or control it or come from a place where we're going to fix it,
Right.
No, I totally get that. And so she was in spirit and you were, it was a medium moment for you. You were being a medium and you saw her through that. That's beautiful. And I do believe, and I know that you're not saying all that just adds to cancer, but it adds up in your body into some sort of, Louise Hay would say, dis-ease, which is disease, right? Dis-ease, and when you give yourself away. So I truly believe in that. It reflects, I love that. So can you talk a little bit about, I think that was really profound. I mean, honestly,
I'm speechless.
I know I'm going to take it over. I know right now, but can you talk a little bit about the work that you're doing with auras, with your healing and your Reiki? And can you talk about what kinds of work you're doing through that right now?
Yeah. So I started incorporating auragraphs after COVID. So it's been a little over a year. And auragraphs it's a reading. So people book a reading with me. And while I'm doing the reading, I'm making their auragraph, which is a channel drawing. And so I will be seeing images and being guided around what exactly to put into the auragraph. It's an hour-long session. And then towards the end of the session, I then show my client the auragraph and then read to them what the auragraph it means. because each part of the aurograph will have a meaning that specifically pertains to them and really their essence. You know, their it's like a soul snapshot, so to speak.
Oh my God.
And I find them to be very healing for people. A lot of people get them tattooed. And so I always ask my clients to sit with them for a lot of times. I mean, just the other day, all my clients last week who got autographs, you know, they all say, I want this tattooed. I want to get it. And I will always ask people to sit with it for a moment, to take it to their meditation or to think on it. And what aspect of the aurograph they want. Typically, everybody wants the whole thing.
Right. Yeah.
But sometimes, you know, people want just a small portion, which is totally fine. And then we schedule at a later date the tattoo to get it tattooed. And sometimes people want them tattooed, but I'll discourage them from getting that particular aurograph depending on what our session was around. It might not be the one that you would want to, you know, mark on your body forever.
Right. Right.
And it's also interesting, my clients who get autographs regularly, because I have a lot of clients who see me on a regular basis, whether they're having readings or healing sessions, or they're getting autographs every time. It's interesting to see how they shift and what comes in to them.
Yeah.
I was wondering, like the auragraphs, because I've heard of this. I've never done this. I thought I've done almost everything, but
You really have, honestly.
Right. I haven't done this, so I can't wait to come see you, April. But so is it how do they change over time? Is it what the soul wants to express at that moment, or is it like a like diagram to find your soul, or what
how
is
does
that?
the aura change?
Yeah, like how
what
does
influences that?
Yeah, because it's not like futuristic. We're going to be the next Oprah and Gail. I mean,
that is
true.
Yeah,
but,
that's true.
But, is it futuristic like that? Or is it more like the soul speaking to you where you're at?
Yeah.
I would say it feels like the soul speaking to me overall, where it's at. A lot of people come, whether they're getting an aurograph or not, I'm always asking people, what is your intention for the session? And sometimes we'll talk a little bit about, you know, really honing in on what the intention is and getting really clear before we go into a session.
I love that.
Yeah, it's really important in order to open things up. And because my client's voice in the session and your openness and willingness is really what is going to bring more into the session.
Right.
And so, so I feel as if it's a soul snapshot, but in that intention, whatever the intention is, we're always going back. So we're going back to the root cause of whatever it is for my client to then gain clarity on where we're going. And I'm always setting the intention that we're seeing the path of the most ease and joy. Because there's many trajectories that we can take, and nothing is really solid or set in stone.
Right.
We tend to choose the path of resistance and getting in our way. And I believe that we'll all come to where we're supposed to come, no matter which pathway we choose, but we could choose an easier path. So I'm always looking for that. It's interesting, your question, because it's like, there's an aspect of going back and all sorts of things will come into these autographs that feel, sometimes it's very literal. Like I'll be drawing I'll draw someone's tattoo and then they'll be like, I have this tattoo here. Sometimes it's around things that they really love. But mostly it's shapes and the shapes that very much looks geometric and similar to like, not the artwork that I do. It looks like my artwork, I guess, but in an aurograph sense, not like when people are commissioning me for custom pieces. But so, you know, I have a lot of clients who have a lot of trauma, and as we all have a lot of trauma, but I've heard some, you know, I have some clients with some pretty serious stuff. And if we have a session all around that and we're not in a healing place yet, and we're still on that journey, I don't love to mark those things on the body. I want to get to the more evolved space that you're in And maybe it's a combination of many auragraphs that we're putting together. There's, I mean, endless options really. But overall, I mean, I guess I would just capture it as it feels as if it's the snapshot of the essence of my client and their situation. Although the other day I did one that was really unique, that really had to do with her entire family's lineage. It was really a soul collective session in her soul family, and really what's happening in the dynamic of her lineage, which a lot of that has been coming up the last year and a half or so for people.
Really? So it beyond just this lifetime, it's lifetimes and family lineage beyond, like there's like a huge transformation going on energetically within.
Yes. Yeah. And I feel it's my belief. I mean, in this lifetime, we are reconciling so many past lifetimes, you know, where things maybe didn't end up as well. Yeah. And in this lifetime, we're really being triggered because those things are coming up again. And then the soul's like, oh my God, I'm going to die. Right. and then it starts overreacting. And, you know, we have an illness or we have something that happens, and it's, you know, it's really for us to reconcile and calm the soul down that no, this doesn't mean that we're going to wind up dying like it maybe happened in another lifetime, but that we need to work through this and choose, you know, I don't know if better pathways the right word, but that pathway different, you know,
different path.
For sure. Very interesting. So you have kind of almost from a business model standpoint, it seems like you've kind of flipped the model a bit from the tattoo leading with the tattoo foot to leading more with that energetic, broader, you know, spiritual perspective and healing perspective. And so I find that fascinating. And yet, you know, there's clearly a great deal of, in reading your bio on the website, just a great deal of love for the tattoo, just exactly what you were just talking about, that tattooing is kind of almost a closure of a process or hold on, Kelly, you're gonna have to start this over. The tattooing is kind of a closure of a time or space change, evolution. Like it's almost like a closure of one chapter and opening of another, or celebration of another chapter. Can you talk about your thoughts on tattooing and that process and how it fits into the metaphysical work that you do?
Yeah. And I feel like one other thing is just like, for me, there's a thread of like this art is like a foundational thread.
Yeah. So again, like most things for me, it starts with the vision. I get visions, you know, and I don't necessarily know how they're going to come about or when it's going to happen. You know, it's not really, again, up to us to decide those things, as much as it drives me crazy. You know, that, so I started having these visions around the time of opening altar, maybe a couple years before, of past lifetimes where I was a tattooer from a long time ago. And people were coming to see me, and I would be in this tent and there were guards around, and people would think that I was a man. And so they would be surprised when they would come in and it was a female, which is why that, from my understanding of the vision, it's a limited perspective of just what I saw. I felt intuitively that's why there were these people standing outside. And then, so my clients would come in and they were coming in for healings. They weren't coming in for tattoos. They were coming in for healings. And then after the healing, I would then apply these symbols in tattoo form. And then I would rub this ash that then would leave the tattoo, which was the talisman of, you know, that symbol, that sacred magic symbol that's personal to you and your healing. And they would be put specifically in areas of the body that correlated with whatever was around the illness or a past life situation or whatever was happening. And so that's where I feel like tattooing comes from. And in order for me to honor honor tattooing and the way I feel about tattooing and where I see that it comes from in those origins, I knew I had to create a different space, which is altar, to be able to do that. And so it's been really challenging for me since opening, trying to figure out how to marry and weave together these worlds. And I have done it. I mean, it's been going on 6 years, you know, since being here, and it's changed so much. So my intention was always there, but it just looked different over the years, and how I was incorporating them and trying to figure out how I do this and making it as effective and efficient as possible for myself, my client, the healing, and also just making it make sense, you know? So for a while, I feel like I floundered around a little bit. I also was really having an issue with trust, especially around my mediumship, and not understanding that spirit is always going to show up, that it's not up to me to, again, control anything, that I'm literally just the vessel for the information. I don't remember readings. I mean, I won't remember anything. I have clients who see me repeatedly. Sometimes I'll remember certain things from sessions, but it's in and then it's gone.
Wow.
And so, and it's like that with my artwork too, because I channel for all of my artwork, my custom pieces as well, and really tapping into the energy and the essence of who is coming in and what needs to unfold in this drawing. So it's changed over time. COVID really, COVID, and then also some health issues. It was ultimately my health issues, but which just happened to be like around COVID. That really, it was the biggest hitting over the head moment of my life, of really having to awaken, to quit denying that I'm an intuitive medium, and that this is why I'm here. This is my service, and this is what I need to do. And I've always known that. It's so funny because I look back as a child and it's like, duh. You know, I don't know what took me so long to figure it out. Like, no one around me is surprised. And, you know, my husband's probably like the biggest non-believer ever. And, you know, he's a believer now. So like,
I love that.
You know,
That's a great story.
Yeah.
Telling him about what his grandmother is saying, you know, or things that I couldn't possibly know, or, you know, it all comes together. But,
wow.
yeah, so I really had to, I don't know, put my big girl pants on and just face the music and really come out of the closet, so to speak, that this is who I am, and that I can't deny this anymore. And I knew I had to do it, or I wasn't going to heal. I wasn't going to physically heal myself.
Right. Yeah. When you don't live in your authentic truth, it's
well, it's interesting because
soul sucking.
Because the auragraphs are exactly what her vision was from the prior life in the tent. And I mean, that you know, you did the healing, and then you had the tattoo, and that's what you're doing now. You're doing the healing, the aurograph, and then people are sitting with it and deciding how to tattoo. So you've actually recreated your vision. Yeah. In the present life.
Yeah. And it's still, there's more to come. It's still evolving. I have other things coming in that I haven't made public yet.
It's exciting.
I know.
But I'm really excited about it. And I feel like it's all the stepping stones, you know, it's just like finding the space and just putting one foot in front of the other. You know, we don't know exactly how it's going to work out, but just staying on the path. And that's, again, where it's so important for me to do my meditation, to make sure I'm eating real food and drinking water and sleeping and, you know, and not pushing my energy outside of my body to will things to happen. That can work. You can manifest and you can make shit happen, but it's going to be at the expense of your body. And that's what I'm trying to correct. Even though I have all the practices in place and energetic hygiene and all of the things, I spent years not really knowing what I was doing. And I'm still learning. But I feel like in the past years of really not getting it or not having those boundaries or not making the best decisions for myself, you know, really caught up to me. And so I'm having to undo those layers, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, you know, what if you could only go back years and years and, you know, decades before, and
That's what I think.
that's what I'm thinking right now,
For
listening to her.
myself.
God dang it. You know, nobody wants to get we call it the universal 2x4.
Yeah.
When you don't
Yeah.
listen, you
Whack.
don't listen, you don't listen. It's a big old
Whack.
whacker right across the head. So, I mean, that's no good. But you know, to your point, if we all practice, and it's so hard, I do think COVID's given us all a little bit of a gift and some space to get a little quieter and get off that, you know, hamster wheel and some of those things that were
Pick up the phone.
pick up the phone, be available to answer the call, whatever it is. And I think that's super important, as long as people are using that time, to your point, to better themselves and to get quiet and create some practices and rituals for yourself to really create an open space so that you learn what's important to you. You hear what you need to hear so that you make the right decisions going forward, as hard as those may be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
And I would also add communing with nature, because the guides are always talking about that, about really getting outside and walking or whatever it is that you like to do outside, but that it's so important that you're outside and listening, you know, you're opening yourself up to the nature realms and all the energies that are around in that way, in a safe way, not all the energies, I didn't want to specify. Because we're fed so much by Mother Earth, by the trees, by the animals, by the plant spirits, by so many things going on that really can help inform us. They also have the answers for us too.
Right.
And so I think it's so important just to make sure you're getting outside.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. So we will link your website on in our show notes, Alter Seattle. And okay, how do people get a hold of you? And if you want to, so for a regular custom tattoo like I did, we did set an intention. We did do all of that, but I don't know that the time that I would have definitely done an aurograph. We have to go back for that, Jeech. Okay, so
we're gonna do it.
So I don't know that I'm going to get a tattoo of it, but who knows?
We'll see, right?
I could be inspired. Who knows? Anyway, we
And
did have
she's a commissioned artist.
A lot of people frame them, or they'll commission
totally
me to make it into like another piece of art or something. By no means do you have to get them tattooed.
No, but I love it. I want it framed in the studio, Jeech.
We should
have one on your side, one on mine.
Okay.
There we go.
A little aurograph hovering above our head.
Yes, there we go.
Good idea.
I love that.
Yeah.
So how do people get a hold of you? And so for custom tattoo, there's really, it's really hard to get.
It's always hard, but
it's always hard. I think it's harder now.
Yeah.
Now that your time is so precious in the healings and the intuitive gifts. Yeah. So booking a session for an aurograph, or how do they get in touch with you? What is that? What's the expectation there for our audience?
Yeah, you can just go to my website. It's alterseattle.co, and it's ALTAR Seattle.co. I have an Instagram at April Cornell or at Alter Seattle. My assistant's amazing, so she gets back to everybody. But there is a scheduler on the website if you want to book readings, autographs, healing sessions. And then for tattoo work, there's a submission form for custom tattoo work. I am taking a pause on taking custom tattoos besides express bookings, because I'm booked into most of 2023, I think. So I'm trying to shorten that gap a little bit. And I like to get my clients who want autographs in within a few weeks. So a few months, I should say, is more realistic. So I don't make my autograph clients wait too long for their tattoos. But yeah, those are the best ways to get a hold of me.
It's so exciting. And I can't wait to hear what the next chapters and the next evolution.
The teasers were good. I mean,
know.
There's more coming. I'm loving it.
I'm excited. I'm excited for what.
When you're ready and willing to share, we'd love to have you back.
Absolutely.
I know we could. I feel like we could learn so much from. I mean, this is exactly how you've evolved your life, and with such humbleness around. Gosh, I probably wasn't following my
Paying attention
guidance or paying
yeah.
attention. And, you know, I wasn't maybe leveraging all my gifts, or like, gosh, I could have done this a long time ago. I mean, I don't hear a lot of remorse in your voice, just more of a, I'm here now. I'm paying attention now. I'm moving forward. This is part of that process, that learning process that we all have as human beings. Right. And so it was lovely to hear.
Thank you. I think another one, I just, because I feel like it's important to add, that made a huge shift for me. And before I had that awakening of hearing that voice in the car accident, it was a while before then that I quit drinking alcohol. And it was just numbing out my senses so much that I didn't realize it. And I think I wasn't an alcoholic. I wouldn't consider myself an alcoholic. I was drinking as much as anyone else is drinking in the world, which I think is too much.
Which is a lot.
But,
yep.
And no judgment at all to people who drink at all. For me, I really wanted to step out of the matrix, and that was keeping me kind of locked in and not seeing what I really wanted to see clearly. And it was just pivotal in my growth and in being able to hear myself. And it, for other people, it might be other things. For me, it was that, and just that act alone. I mean, my life just kept getting better and better and better. I always imagined there was like this 30-day detox, and then you're like, you know, you're free of it all or something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it was so weird because it was like 90 days and then a year and then 2 years and 3 years. And it just kept getting better and better and better and better. And it's interesting, you know? So I feel like we all have different vices. And whatever they are right now, one of mine is coffee that I'm trying.
I was going to ask you if you were on caffeine, because I've gone off and on caffeine to think, okay, well, I feel like, okay, maybe that's too much mental chatter for me, for my meditation or for whatever. And I'm miserable even after I've done it for a year. And when I go back on, I'm like, oh, I'm so happy. I mean, there's something euphoric about it. So this probably means I should get off of it, but I don't know.
One time I heard, it was last year or this year sometime, I heard Marianne Williamson say that she drinks a cup of coffee before a meditation. And I thought, okay, it's fine.
Okay, good. If she can do it, I can do it. Yeah,
she can do it. I think but to your point, I love that. Like, alcohol absolutely can, for not everybody, but it could be caffeine. It could be something else for you. So you have to, it's all individual. Everybody is really different and needs what it needs.
Yeah.
Well, it's all about why you're doing it. You know, if it's for social and fun and all that stuff, you can put it in that spot. But if you're using it to
sometimes after work
to hit the mute button on the phone, so you don't hear what the universe is giving you, what's going on, then that is where it will no doubt free you if you can get rid of that out of your life. For sure.
And that's exactly why I brought it up, because a lot of intuitives and a lot of mediums fall into addiction, into like doling out those voices that you're hearing. Or, you know, I do hear, you know, the other side. I see more. We all have different gifts that we're attuned to. But I do know, I have heard that story a lot with intuitives and mediums that fall into some kind of addiction or another. And just like coffee, that's something for me that I have to keep it in check. Like hearing Marianne say I do it gives me that excuse to be like, oh, I can do it too. But really, I know that my soul's saying you need to chill on the coffee.
Marianne just said 1 cup. That's all Marianne drinks.
But 1 cup leads to 2. I'm just going to say, because I was on decaf and then I went 1 cup and now it's like, I kind of want another. I want to.
What would Marianne do? Exactly.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so
we
much.
really appreciate you and all that you're doing and all that you've, you know, given us and blessed us with today.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Thanks for thinking of me. I'm glad I stuck in your mind so that we could have that.
Yeah. And for all the right reasons based on today.
Absolutely.
It was incredible. So
wonderful.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
April.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
We believe in magic. This is Holli.
And this is Jeanna.
The LOA Uncorked definition of magic is recognizing something special has occurred and you don't know how or why.
And we invite each of you to experience more magic, joy, lots of laughter, all while uncorking your inner badassery to up-level your life.
Everyone, welcome to the party.